I'm very happy to give the word to Professor Laura Rinaldi, who's a working group leader 1 and who will share session 1 on diagnosis.
Thank you very much, Johannes. It's my pleasure to open this fourth joint COMBAR working group meeting with the session 1, Improving Diagnosis. I am Laura Rinaldi from the University of Napoli Federico II, and I welcome everybody. We have a 2-hour tight program. We will start after my brief introduction with an invited lecture by Professor Cédric Nouveau from INRA, followed by 3 short presentations by young COMBAR members, 4 one-minute poster presentations, and finally a moderated discussion with contributions from the panel members and your contribution through Mentimeter. The general aim of our COMBAR cost action is to combat anthelmintic resistance through an integrated approach in order to have a sustainable control program. And within this approach, diagnostics should not be overlooked. I have been coordinating working group 1 together with my colleague and friend, Professor George von Samson in Mestirna, already for 3 years. We also interact with the other 2 working group leaders, Edwin and Eric. The general aim is to prioritize, evaluate, and implement cost-effective methods for the diagnosis of helminth infections, primarily gastrointestinal nematodes and fasciolepatica, and anthelmintic resistance. We know that the availability of efficient, reliable, and robust diagnostic methods has a pivotal role in order to harmonize study design and interpretation, and also to standardize field and laboratory surveys in different geographical areas in order to achieve an accurate picture of AR in ruminants across Europe. Working group 1 includes 4 tasks. The first is harmonized recommendation for fecal hair count reduction test, a list of available diagnostics and technology readiness level across Europe, market analysis for test introduction, and finally mapping the extent of anthelmintic resistance in Europe through field surveys. And within these tasks, we have been also fostering capacity building by organizing a training school on the advancement of traditional molecular diagnosis held in June 2019 at Cremopar in southern Italy. We know that technology is advancing and it is likely that in a few years' time, novel cutting-edge diagnostics will have been produced and hopefully will be available on the market. These tools should include fecal hair count reduction pen-side tests and associated decision support tools, molecular tests for detecting AR against all major drug classes, as well as in vitro assays, and hopefully also biomarkers to be detected in milk or in saliva. But the tool should meet key practical needs in order to be included in the toolbox for practitioners and farmers. Ideally, a COMBAR diagnostic test should be convenient to be used on farm, providing results on mobile devices, biodegradable and automated in order to have reduced times and costs. And this will allow us to translate research to practice. We know that automated fecal hair count methods have been developed as the FECPAC G2 or are in the pipeline as our cubic flow microscope. These automated fecal egg count methods will reduce human errors and time of reading. And we ought to aim at tuning automated identification and counting of helminth eggs based on artificial intelligence. The general goal is to develop a precision parasitology approach for smart farming solutions. But in parallel, also molecular methods have been developed, especially for detecting benzimidazole resistance with an increasing range of genetic markers. And it seems that molecular tools as pyrosequencing and digital droplet PCR are low-cost approaches for field testing and routine diagnosis. And several collaborative studies are ongoing within COMBAR on molecular analysis of DNA extracted from larval pools of ruminant samples collected in different countries as Austria, Germany, Portugal, and so on. But whatever test we use, it's important that it is used in the countries, because we have to tackle the uptake of diagnosis by practitioners and by the farmers. This is why we have recently run and completed an online survey in 20 European COMBAR countries in order to identify the opportunities, the barriers, challenges that might affect their commercialization in Europe. And we chose MiniFlowTAC as a diagnostic tool, and we performed a SWOT and PESTEL analysis in order to identify political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal aspects that may influence the uptake of these diagnostics. Another task is mapping the extent of anthelmintic resistance in ruminants in Europe. And a few days ago, this nice paper has been just published. We launched a survey, an online survey, and created an open database collecting publication on anthelmintic resistance in gastrointestinal nematodes and liver fluke, representing over 500 studies in 22 countries. And you can see that compared to 5 years ago, anthelmintic resistance is widespread, and so it's really an increasing problem across Europe. From these graphs, you can see that there is an increasing trend over time, especially for benzimidazole resistance, and anthelmintic resistance prevalence is increasing not only in small ruminants as before, but also in cattle, especially for macrocyclic lactones. And from these nice charts, you can see how at least for gastrointestinal nematodes in sheep and goats, the level of treatment failures correlates with the research efforts. So really, if you look for anthelmintic resistance, you will find it. So many actions have been already accomplished, but we have still some activities in the pipelines for next year. First, a market analysis for diagnostics other than fecal egg count reduction test, and potential candidates are ELISA saliva and molecular methods, and as droplet PCR and pyrosequencing. In addition, we are thinking also on a survey on availability of anthelmintics for ruminants across Europe, with a particular focus on prescription situation, which can vary among the COMBAR countries. In addition, we have already drafted fecal egg count reduction test protocols circulated and received feedback from many participants, and this is why, in order to finalize these protocols, we have already set up a workshop discussion early next year. Of course, due to the COVID restrictions, Many field surveys foreseen for this year have been postponed, but they have been already planned for next year. And as Johannes mentioned, we want not only to do research, but to translate our research output into practical recommendations for the field.